Oh, that was fast. Well, hi. I guess we gonna bypass the. That was fast. It was didn't give me enough time to get it all set up, but all right, we're live. With me tonight is Christina Ayers, and she's from you were saying Omaha,
Yep, from Omaha for the most part.
but she knows the Wisconsin Illinois area pretty well. It
Yep.
sounds like. So, how are you doing tonight?
I'm
And
doing pretty good. It's a day off of work, so that's always a good day. So I can't complain. Just been relaxing all day, so
yeah, it's too
not
cold to
bad.
go outside anywhere.
It's not that bad here. It's been like 50 degrees the last couple of days, weirdly
Jeez,
enough.
I need to move.
It's not going to stay that way. Come January or February, it will get super
Oh,
cold. We get more cold than we get snow, so
no, there's a lot of snow on the ground here.
yeah, well, ours all melted, so I'll take it. It's fine. I just know that come January, February, March, it's going to be super cold. So,
No, I'm allergic to the cold. I stay in. I have, I do. I missed a couple of winters by being in the hospital, so
yeah.
I kind of lost the tolerance I had for it. Um, so how long have you been? Well, let's just start out by tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, as far as paranormal goes, like
Yeah.
I've been doing that for I don't know 9 years, 10 years now. I mean, I've always been interested in. I guess it's like one of those things. I feel like you're just born being into. So I've always had an interest in it, but never really did anything much with it. But over the last 9 years, I ended up getting my own building, and then I lost it for 3.5 years, and then I finally got it back. So we're working on reopening that up, which is going to take a lot of time. But most of the time, I mean, I've spent the last now, I think, 5 years. I acquired the name Paragypsy because I pretty much sold everything I owned and I was living on the road. I was doing events all over the country and just, I guess, exploring and things. I was a widow at a very young age with kids. And so I raised them all. And then I was like, okay, everybody out. I'm selling the house. I want to go live a life for a little while. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great adventure. I've been grounded now for the last just over a year. I've kind of been back home and whatever, but I'm still traveling as much as I can and going to conventions and haunted locations and just all the naturey things, kayaking and hiking and all that stuff. So I'm just always doing something and just trying to enjoy life as much as I can. So that's really about it.
Life's too short not to enjoy it.
Hmm.
So the building, it's called the Stephenson Building
The Stevenson,
or
yes.
Stevenson Building. Well, you can say it either way, I guess. So where's that located, and what's the
So
story
it's
behind it?
it is in Wymore, Nebraska. And the craziest thing is one of the things that I do like adventure wise, I guess you could say, is that I enjoy urban exploration. So just finding abandoned buildings and exploring and looking for ghost towns and just all that. So, like, I love doing that. It's probably one of my absolute favorite things to do in the world. And so many years ago, I guess now it would have been 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Um, I I was doing that, and then a friend of mine was like, why are you doing that alone? Like, you shouldn't be doing it by yourself, blah, 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 and whatever. And so I was like, okay, fine. So I went on Facebook and made a status. I was like, hey, I need someone to go, abandoned house hunting with, preferably a guy for safety reasons, just to appease this friend. And a friend of mine, well, he wasn't a friend of mine at the time, but this guy reached out to me. His name is Keith. And he starts sending me all these pictures of abandoned buildings. And I was like, oh my gosh, where is this? And he tells me. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go by myself anyway. Like, I don't really care what anybody says. So I drive all the way out to this little town called Wymore, Nebraska, and I can't find any of these buildings. And so I messaged this Keith guy and I was like, oh, hey, where are all these buildings? And he was like, you're here? And I was like, what do you mean I'm here? You're here? He goes, I live here. So I went over to his house and got in his truck and we went and he showed me all of these abandoned places. And I don't recommend getting in cars with strangers, just
No,
FYI.
don't do
Um,
that.
but
Great.
he's been a good friend of mine ever since, oddly enough. Um, and so I started learning about the history of the town and the people, and I got more involved. And then I wanted to make a film and I wanted a headquarters. And then this guy offered me the Stevenson building. And jokingly, I was like, well, I don't want it if it's not haunted. So he gave me access to the building for 2 months before I agreed to buy it. And the stuff that I experienced in that building, I was like, I can't believe like this is so crazy. So then I started doing research on it. So some of the things that have happened there is things will move on their own. Things have gotten thrown. I've had things thrown at me. I've had mannequins thrown from the display window. You'll hear walking around. You hear people talking on the stairs. So this building was built in 1881 by Sam Wymore, who founded Wymore, Nebraska. And then George Stevenson picked it up in 1901. And the reason he ended up with the building is because Sam Wymore wasn't doing so good health wise. And so he was like, for his health, he went to Nevada. Is it Nevada or Arizona? I can't remember. I just looked up, but one of those. And while he was there, he had entrusted the building with the Murdochs. So the Murdochs, I've been doing a lot of research on the Murdochs actually the last couple of days. And Charles Murdoch, who Wymore entrusted with the building, was just kind of a jerk. Like everything I read about him, he's just kind of an arrogant prick. Like you imagine like, your cowboy, bad cowboy who's trying to pretend like he's a good guy, but really he's just a jerk. And so Murdoch's, their family basically stole over $8,000 from Sam Wymore. And so if you think about back in, 1889, 1890, that's a good chunk of change to be stealing from
Oh yeah,
someone.
that's like the equivalent of millions today.
Exactly. And so Sam Wymore obviously started a lawsuit. And in the process of that lawsuit, it was just making him sicker and the stress, and he couldn't handle it. So he entrusted the building to George Stevenson, who then became the owner of it in 1901. The sad part about that is that Sam Wymore actually won the court case, but he passed before ever knowing that he won the court case.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. So, and I found all like the actual court documents and stuff from that just yesterday. So I thought that was kind of cool. Like I'm finding this piece of history. Well, as time went on, it turns out that George Stevenson, when he took it over, he is now, as the years go by, he's now involved with the mob. And this lady named Nellie Beer was sent from Chicago to marry George Stevenson. And I thought that's kind of strange because not only did she marry George Stevenson, but she ran the railroad there in Wymore. She was leading up the railroad system there. When you think about it, back in 1901, um, women weren't exactly running railroad stations. Times were a lot different. And so I started thinking, okay, what's going on there? Well, when I went to the Mob Museum out in Vegas, I learned that the only mob owned railroad went from New York City down to Las Vegas. It was just a straight shot, but it goes right through Wymore. So I start putting two and two together, and I'm looking into it. Well, then in the building, buried in the dirt in the basement, two poker chips from the Southland Mafia turned up, which was an illegal gambling house. And so then we found an association between um, Southland Mafia and Nellie Beer. And so you keep going in time, and now I'm getting like some of the people that live in town have stories from their grandparents and their parents and whatever of Al Capone actually being in the building. So he has an association with the building as well. And there were underground tunnels. The tunnels were put there to run steam heat to the main hotel in town, which was the Tethusalon, a beautiful hotel, took up an entire city block. And once they didn't do the steam heat anymore, the tunnels were open. And so people were using those tunnels to run liquor for Al Capone. They were using them for, to get back and forth, for gambling illegally and for ladies of the night and all these crazy things. Eventually, the KKK used them, the Oddfellows used them. But they were using them initially because the crime on the streets was so bad that they were using them for safe passage. Well, then the crime in the tunnels got so bad, they created another set of tunnels with a private police force that then tried to police those tunnels. And then eventually they were all filled in because there were so many that the streets were starting to cave. Yeah. So to now they're all, they are all sealed in. But there were four entrances to those tunnels in the basement of the Stevenson building. And George Stevenson, the building itself became like the financial hub of the city. So if you needed anything, if you needed a loan, if you needed real estate, it didn't matter what it did, the banks, everything, if it had to do with money, you went through George Stevenson. So over time, you can see how that would like really kind of, that's where all the crime is. You want the crime, you follow the money. There's 7 confirmed deaths that happened in the building, 5 of which were 5 men that were actually lynched out front of the building. We do have some actual video evidence that that happened. So that is actually provable by video.
Wow.
I don't really show it, but we do have it. Yeah, Portals to Hell saw it. Obviously, they didn't talk about it and they didn't put it on the episode or whatever. But it's more or less I use it to verify. Like if people want to know that it happened, I can verify it. But the building itself is just crazy. The things that have happened in there. Just hearing. Um, we've done investigations where we're sitting upstairs and you hear what sounds like children running up and down the hallway, and you'll go out there, there's nobody there. I've had it happen with entire groups in there, and we'll all go looking through the building and somebody will go outside to see if maybe kids came in or whatever. And usually there's an officer sitting out there kind of keeping an eye on things outside, and he's like, there's been nobody here. So it's just, it's phenomenal, the stuff that has happened in that building. So,
You know, that part that, tunnels underneath the buildings, that's
mhm,
a pretty common thing. You know, I hear that like we were out in Chicago at that bar that's not Chet's, but it's at the opposite end where it all started on Archer Avenue.
mhm,
Um, I can't remember the name of that bar, but it had a tunnel over to the ballroom that went under the road,
yeah,
you know, and that tunnel was there since the 1800s or whatever. But come to find out later, in the 1930s or whatever, during Al Capone's days in Prohibition, those tunnels probably got the most use.
yeah,
You know, considering that everything kind of stayed below ground in the
mhm.
30s, because of Prohibition and the mafia. Man, that was a scary time. I wouldn't have wanted to live there.
Yeah, I know, right? What the thing is the tunnels, it's not like the tunnels were just put there for this purpose. Like the tunnels were there and then just got utilized. Most of the places that have the tunnels, they were there for steam heat. And especially Chicago, like for anybody who's ever been there, like Wacker Drive is like a main highway that runs underneath the city. They do that for, I'm sure, a lot of different reasons, maintaining traffic, things like that, whatever. But there's still tunnels all over. I mean, plus you have sewage tunnels. There's so much underneath our feet as it is, so
It's scary to think that about that because that big mob city that was owned, Las Vegas. Everybody knows it, hears about it.
mhm,
there is quite the tunnel system below Las Vegas, and there's people living there.
Yeah.
I watched a few documentaries on those tunnels.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I think that would be scarier than what's going on above ground.
Yeah, and it probably is because I mean, when you think about it, a lot of the craziest stuff happens at night because of darkness and this and whatever when you're in those
Right.
tunnels and you have nobody watching you. And, I mean, you're down there trying to hide from everything or whatever. But honestly, like, I feel like it would just be a lot worse. It's not exactly decent living conditions by any means whatsoever. But if you're homeless and you have nowhere else to go, and that's the best you can do for shelter, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, and those tunnels the ones in Las Vegas tend to flood every now and then.
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine being in there. I mean, it would just if
Uh-uh.
you get flooded, we're probably not going to get out.
I mean, this world's crazy above ground, but to think somebody's like living below ground because they're like, you know, lost their job, whatever, can't get a job, and they're on hardships, or just because they want to defect from society, they
Yeah.
want nothing to do with the social norm. That's just a scary place in and of itself. Just to
Yeah.
think about it. Man, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near tunnels.
You know what? I would agree with you. I'll tell you what though, I wish that there were some tunnels still open in Wymore because I can't even imagine like the artifacts that I would find
Oh
down
yeah,
there. And that
yeah.
would just be fantastic. There's actually a garage in Wymore, and I tried to get possession of it, but the guy who owns it just uses it for storage, and it's really sad that he does because the garage was actually used by Capone when he would come into town, and so there's a lift in it, and so he could just pull into the garage, and it would lift his car up into the ceiling.
Oh
So when he
wow.
was there, it would just look like there was no vehicle, and he basically hiding in plain sight, and
Well,
I'm like, oh,
that's
how
that's
great is that?
that was the way to do it though, and Capone was a smart man on that aspect. If you're gonna
Hmm.
hide in plain sight. It's not like back in his time where they had cameras on every street corner,
Yeah.
like we do now. He could easily hide in plain sight.
Yep. Well, and I also learned because I worked at Hotel Josephine for a little while, and they had a basically in the basement where you could pull a vehicle in to unload the vehicle. I don't know, like I guess like some of the first like valet service where they get your luggage out of your car and this and that, whatever. And so they had a turntable. I don't know, it was buried. So we weren't sure if all the mechanisms were still there or not, but basically they would pull the car in, everybody would go out and load it, but cars didn't have reverse. So the turntable would then turn the car around inside the garage so that they could drive out. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like, things you don't think of that ever existed. It
Yeah,
is so awesome.
it's like that kind of thing is like space age, something you wouldn't think, yeah,
Mhm.
existed because it was advanced for its time. But some of those mafia people were smart on hiding themselves and doing things the easy way.
Yeah.
You know, but there's still a lot to do. You
Yeah.
know, for me, that is, because I've got many interests, not just the paranormal. I've got this tied to Italian history,
Yeah.
which includes
My kids are all
mafia.
half Sicilian, so
So you know, you got a name and you grew up where I grew up. Yeah, you're going to be interested in it.
hmm.
I mean, I grew up with all the elders, and the elders would be like my grandparents and your great uncles and stuff. You know, when there was a big family get together, there was a lot of food, the kitchen smelled good, and there was a lot of talking in Italian.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
I
know,
remember that from the days of raising my kids for sure. going to their side of the family and things like that. So they
But
still talk a lot. They talk over each other, and they're like, my son just turned 29 today, and so you can imagine they're all in their 20s, and every time we eat, they're all. I just shut them off because I'm like, you're all talking at the same time. I'm pretty sure that's an Italian thing.
you should be stuffing your mouth, not talking. But
I wish.
it's
I
one
so
of two
wish.
things, it's stuff in the mouth and talking, because that's what family dinner is about,
Yeah, it's funny.
But I grew up with, the older generation of Italians, so we didn't have a traditional Christmas either. You know, our Christmas would, there was like three houses in front and one in back, and then it was all funeral home land otherwise. So those three houses and one in back, they were all related to each other, right? So
Yeah,
you got my grandpa and grandma on one end, and so Christmas is there, and then when Christmas is done over here, because they get together with their immediate family, they'd all gather at one house when it's all said and done.
that's awesome though.
Yeah, it was, you know, and yeah, it's just as the older generation died and passed on, yeah, that stuff disappeared.
Yeah, I do the best I can with my kids. I mean, it's been their dad passed away 21
Yeah,
years ago, and so it's been that long. But the kids and I try to, still continue on. Like, we're small, but you know what? It's the beginning. They'll grow. I have a grandson now, so um, like I'm learning to enjoy Christmas with them. It's instead of me doing all the work, they actually cook and clean now. So I'm starting to enjoy that.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's nice having grandkids. I know that. I've got enough of them.
yeah, well, my daughter was like, I know you just come over here for him. And I said, well, I like him more.
Well, I've got between me and I got three kids. My wife's got three kids, but between the two of us, there's probably something like 10 grandkids.
Oh my God, no. I
Just
don't think I could do that.
on just my kids alone. Like my daughter's got two boys, and my son just got a boy. That's it on my side. The rest
Hmm.
is all her kids. But I go to my brother's now, and yeah, I go there more to see my grandkids, you know. But it is the only time I can really see my kids too, because they live in Madison. They're busy. They're young, busy, trying to build a life. My oldest daughter, she lives in Milwaukee, so they're kind of all spread out. So it's like the one time a year you get them all in one place.
Yeah,
You know,
that makes sense.
yeah,
I'll be honest, I don't know the last time I had all my kids in one place. They all live right here, so but they're all so different that we don't very often just like let's all go do this. It's usually like I'm doing one with one kid and then something with the other one,
yeah,
but
yeah. That's how it goes. If I want to see them, I'll call my older daughter, and it's like, well, want to take you out for dinner. Are you free this weekend? And so I take her and her husband out for dinner, and we sit and talk or breakfast.
yeah.
Sometimes that's the only way I can do it is make time for them because they can't make time. They got jobs and stuff, so they're busy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they are.
if I can get them at a day off, it's like easier to say, okay, let's go out to eat my treat.
Yeah. They'll always go if it's your treat.
Right.
If you're paying, they will always go. That's what I've learned. That's too funny.
But so what else do you do? I mean, do you just do the hauntings and the ghosts or do you go and travel and get into the cryptids?
I do a little bit with the cryptids, I suppose. I kind of really, I'm into aliens for sure. I've been out to Area 51 several
Now
times.
that's a good subject too.
Hmm. I've never seen anything like I that's the thing is like I believe out of all of those things, the most like logical one is aliens because I don't know. I guess I find it really difficult to believe that on this tiny little speck of dust that's Earth, we're the only intelligent things in the universe because we're not all that intelligent. So I'm hoping there's something doing a little bit better out there. I just feel like what an awful waste of space that would be to
Well,
not be there.
no, I haven't, Tom. I haven't yet, but I know about them.
I can't. I'm like on my phone, so it's so tiny I
Wisc
can't see what it
have
says.
you ever explored the caves in Wisconsin? Dells
No.
area have a few, and I know about the caves in the Wisconsin Dells area, but the only caves I was at was the cave of the mounds, and God, I haven't been there in 40 years since I was a kid.
Yeah, I've actually never been there, which is weird because it's like it's on the way to go see my mom from here. I pass it every time. So I just I'm usually busy. So I don't stop. I'm like get to A and B. No exploring on those trips. I need to make a plan to go explore though.
Yeah, exploring's fun. Wisconsin's got a lot to offer as far as natural beauty. Like places like the Dells and Devil's Punch Bowl and different places like that. But like got distracted, Tom. Thank you. Um, the alien thing. Like you said, we man has got to be a bit ignorant to think that we're the only intelligent life form in you know the tiny little speck of the universe as we
Mhm.
call it, and the universe, and then you got what's outside the universe, and all these different planets. You can't tell me not one of them has life forms. you know may not be human, but you know we may be low on the intelligence scale.
Yeah.
I got a theory. The reason that we haven't been invaded yet is because we don't pose a threat. Right now.
Yeah. Well, I also think too, like if we're going to talk about, more intelligent life forms and things like that, I feel like the more intelligent you become, the less violent you become.
Right.
I feel like violence and invasion and things like that are what weak people do. I feel like that's more like what um
That's
I
a
mean,
good.
obviously, if you're attacked, you have to fight back. Like, I'm not
Right.
saying that. But I feel like as you grow more maturely, like mentally and emotionally and intelligently, I think you realize there's better ways of resolving issues, like why attack somebody? You don't need to attack somebody if you already have everything you need, And so if you're of higher intelligence, your mind is going to, find alternative ways other than attack and steal or, there's no reason for I mean, what do we have that somebody of a higher intelligence needs
I
to
think
take from us?
I don't
Oh.
think we have to worry about any kind of alien invasion because, like you said, the higher the intelligence, the less less aggressive you are. Um, but in order to, you see all the spaceships and the pictures and stuff. I think all they're doing is watching,
Yeah,
and observing. And, let them. We're not going to change, obviously.
no.
You
Well,
know,
you never know. Like people can evolve. I mean, I do think sometimes things get worse before they get better, and maybe we're in that phase
yeah,
is
I
in
hope
the worst
so.
before it gets better. I don't know. Um, but who knows, I think if anything, if I was an alien, I wouldn't come here because I would be afraid that, they would try to use me as a science experiment when all you're trying to do is say, hey, let's teach you something or learn from each
Right.
other or whatever. So
Yeah, and when you watch a lot of those alien movies or little shows with witches and stuff like that, that's exactly what they're afraid our government would do.
Hmm.
Alien Autopsy Part Two, or yeah, you can't trust the government and what they may or may not do if they find out you're different. They may want to just dissect you.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, they do that to their own people, like, oh,
right.
if they think you're of some super high intelligence, they're going to lock you in a room for their own safety, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they're going to tell you it's for your own good, for your own safety, and all they're going to do is just sit there and experiment on you until they figure out what makes you tick.
Exactly.
And how can we replicate this?
Yeah. Or how can we use it to our benefit?
Yeah, or as a weapon.
You become
You know?
property. So yeah, and I think that's the case with so much of just paranormal in general, whether it's ghosts or aliens or whatever. I think as humans, we refuse to step outside of our own box. Like, I don't think we spend enough time saying, okay, just because this is how we do things or how we react, whatever, doesn't mean that another species of whatever is going to act that way. It's a matter of being unable to step outside of your own brain and your own head, and trying to understand something that you've never understood before. I guess I don't know if that's coming out right, but
No, it makes good sense. I mean, you can't automatically assume because we act this way, something else that's similar going to act the same way.
hmm,
You know, I mean, a lot of times you can't predict what some of these things may or may not do because we're not going to totally understand unless you can be one, you know,
yeah,
and the reasons that they do certain things are maybe for their own survival,
yeah,
because I think that's one thing we all have in common is the right to survive and the fight. When it comes to like fighting to survive, that's a natural instinct, and I think about everybody that's alive and breathing. You know, your life gets threatened, you're gonna fight back to try to stay alive. You know,
yeah, 100%.
that's the one thing that is common. What we were running out of Jolie at jail from doing the host tour because we got great feedback. Oh, well, see you later, Tom. Have fun. One of these days I'll get there.
Where is he going to? The
Well,
Joliet jail?
yeah, they had that. Um, what was it? Last year I was down there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all under renovation, and they had fences around it and stuff, and construction vehicles, and so it was pretty much closed up for the time being because they were renovating because certain areas weren't safe. So this last summer when I was down there, we saw the sign, yeah, they're open, giving tours again, and it's like, yeah, I would love to be there. There's a lot of history in that place.
Is
And
there? That's cool.
and it's not just the history also, but it's just kind of like, one of the most famous movies was filmed down there, you know, that the Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah, the Blues Brothers. I forgot
Yeah,
about
so
that.
they
I
filmed
always
the
forget
Blues
about that.
Brothers. Yeah. Yeah, I was just talking about that. Yeah.
It's so weird. Like, I just, growing up basically in Chicago and having jobs in different areas of Chicago and things like that. And I can't tell you, there were so many times I would drive. to work, and then I'd move and have to drive to another job or whatever. But they would have like all over the city, like where they filmed Blues Brothers, they have like something there. It's such a big thing there, the statues and the just everything they have out there. I've always loved
There's
that part. And
there's a gas station along Route 66 somewheres. I think it's Route 66. Anyway, that's got the Bluesmobile hanging on, it's like mounted on top of a pole. I was there and took pictures of it.
I feel like I've seen that myself too.
I've gone to like places like that just to take pictures because a film was, filmed down there, and I got to take pictures of that. So it's like,
Hmm.
yep. I even went to Aurora to the sign that says "Welcome to Aurora, Illinois."
Hmm.
To take my picture down there with my Wayne's World hat.
That's awesome. I love it. I took the kids to they went to for the Vans Warp Tour. I forget what it's, is it the Warp Tour still? Yeah. And it was in oh no, I forget the name of the town. It's the Wayne's World town.
Aurora.
It wasn't in Aurora, it's a different town. Or maybe we were driving through Aurora. It might have been. And then we were so we were blaring Wayne's World out the window, and like just they just had a blast. Like it was just something we did. But um yeah, it's Bohemian Rhapsody. Like my brain
Yeah.
is not thinking right. But
Well,
we were
that's
blaring
that's
Bohemian
one.
Rhapsody.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, that's when they were jamming in the car down
Mhm.
the.
It
Yeah.
was Aurora. I'm trying to remember the town of where the Warp Tour was, though. I know they would remember, but that was so much fun. And I'm like, you're raising them right when you're going to a metal concert and you're singing Bohemian Rhapsody out the window in Aurora.
Yeah.
Fun
I
times.
mean, I I I have been having so much fun since, and it doesn't always have to be the paranormal because there are a lot of cool locations close by.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah. No, I love traveling. I've done some of the most amazing things over the last like 5 years. I have a friend, well, she lives in Florida. And so I was actually spending my winters in Florida for a little while. And unfortunately, these last 2 winters, I haven't been able to do it. But we call her nature mom because that's just what she is. But one morning she was just like, "Hey, like get up, be ready to go at 5:30 in the morning." And I'm just like, "Where are we going at 5:30 in the morning?" And before I know it, I was swimming with manatees. It's
Oh
such a
wow.
fantastic, yeah. Just you take a little pontoon boat and you go out to this bay area because come the winter they kind of go up to like the spring heads where the water's warmer, and they just kind of hang out there. And so I have all these like underwater videos of swimming with manatees. And um, that was probably one of the more fun things. They also have if no one's ever heard of this, it's called bioluminescence. And it is just incredible. So August is peak season for it, but in the brackish water where like the salt water and the clear water meet, you have all of these organisms that they basically glow blue, and it's a form of protection for them. And so, and there's jellyfish, and there's something I can't remember the name of it, but there's just all these organisms that when you touch them, it's like blue lightning that goes through their bodies.
Well,
And so when you run your hand through the water, it just lights up blue. And so we'll go out there and kayak, and if you just stop and you just sit there and let the water be still, if you look down, you can see like glowing dolphins and starfish or stingray and just all these crazy like jellyfish and just swimming in the ocean, and
no,
they're
no,
just
thank you.
blue.
Not for me. I'm never getting that close to the ocean. You know, I keep telling people, I says it'll be my luck. I'll get that close, and the next thing you know, Megalodon's going to come out of the depths.
Yeah.
You never know. Anything's possible.
It's
Yeah.
it's amazing though. Like I Probably one of the most amazing experiences of my life is bioluminescent. So, and I see you put down there Bachelor's Grove. Yep, definitely. Bachelor's Grove has one of the most, I think, famous ghost photos ever taken. And I used to party in there when I was a kid because I lived right there. Didn't really know much about it.
We've
So,
got one of the violators.
mhm.
Talk about all the people that partied there.
Yeah, I
And
was like 14 and there was a cemetery. And come on, like 14-year-olds
well,
want to spook themselves out.
the
So,
thing is, I mean, if you don't understand Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, it's like you got to park here, cross the street, walk down this trail for like about a half a mile or more before you even get to the cemetery. So it's like in the middle of like nowhere. You feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. No one's around for miles. Perfect place to party if you're a kid, you know.
I can confirm though because
Cops aren't gonna find us.
they say that if you drop something in the pond and it sinks that you'll die. I can confirm that that is not true. I'm still here. So, and everybody I know who threw a stick in the pond and it sank, they're all still here as well. So, um, debunked. So,
But it is considered, one of the most, haunted cemeteries. It's a very popular location to take you to, take people to. When I visited Chicago with, I met up with a friend, and he's like, been doing this since the 70s. And he's like, well, you definitely got to come out to Bachelor's Grove. And then you got to hear the story, about Resurrection Mary. And, so we visited those two cemeteries in Chet's Melody Bar before all said and done. Bachelor's Grove was probably like, out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, it was one you definitely could tell people were partying there today. I wouldn't go there alone at night. I'd be afraid.
I went. I went back by myself. I want to say that was like 10 years ago now. Um, and I went back there. I was there at like 2 or 3 in the morning. I was there for a few hours by myself. But the result of that was I got a fantastic photo that I've shared so many times because it's just crazy. I don't even tell people. I'm like, you tell me what I'm looking at. But I'll explain it just because I don't have it here. But it's like trees, and then on the one side it looks like a female in a red dress holding a baby, and she's turned sideways, but her head's turned and looking right at the camera. But then when you start looking at it, you start seeing faces, just everywhere. Like there's just so many. And I don't, it's so hard to like, people will say it's pareidoia or whatever, and I'm sure like a lot of it is, but the female in the red dress is the one that's so hard to like
Well,
explain away. You just can't.
I think a lot of that has to do with the kids not respecting the land, you
Mhm.
know, because once you're laid to rest in a place and people are disturbing that by removing the headstones or doing a little satanic ritual, and you can tell that some of those headstones have been had fires start at, so it's just sad that that has to happen, but that activity has also got to do with some of the increase in the sightings there,
Mhm.
because people are disrespecting the land by going there and partying on somebody's grave,
Yeah.
or doing satanic rituals. Some of those kids may or may not do it. Maybe they were burning fire just to keep warm or whatever while they were out there drinking. Who knows? But
Yeah.
You don't do that. You don't disrespect the dead by, we're going to take the headstone, we're going to turn it on its side, and we're going to build a fire on it. I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, and we never did that as a kid. I mean, I don't even think, I
But
think a
there,
lot of times we just walk past the cemetery and go out into the woods further because
but there's
the
signs of
people
that.
knew that that's where where people were, kids were going out there to drink. So you'd have to go further in to the woods to not get caught.
But there
Plain and
there
simple.
was a lot of signs of people doing just that stuff.
Hmm.
And
There,
you can't tell if the fires were for warmth or for a satanic ritual because I wasn't there to see. But you can obviously tell, from an investigative point of view, something was burned on those headstones.
yeah. Well, and the last time I was there, like, I mean, they definitely patrol it a lot more. I ended up getting a trespassing ticket, so it was worth it. But yeah, again, I don't condone trespassing.
No.
But they crack down on it a lot more. And I was there, obviously, doing innocent things. 10 years ago, I wasn't. I was like in my mid 30s. I'm not out there destroying things. And obviously, I had paranormal in mind. So I wasn't out there disrespecting anything, and I never would either. I didn't even realize at that time when I went there 10 years ago that it was because they didn't care before. Um, if you were old enough and you were just out there at night, checking out the cemetery, it wasn't a big deal. But over time, and I think especially because then Ghost Adventures went out there, that just ramped up people going out there and doing things they shouldn't do and getting into trouble. So security now is pretty tight, which is good. So
Yeah, I think sometimes, you know, it's sad that those TV shows, yeah, they may, okay, we're going to show you the history of this place, but at the same time, they don't realize that, their show being at a certain location can actually disrupt everything that's been going on there, the research, uh, you know, maybe we're going to close it down or put no trespassing because all these kids are coming there after the show and they're destroying the property, putting up graffiti, whatever. You know,
mhm.
I think it's sad that they put a lot of this on TV and they kind of at the same time kind of condone, oh, go check this out, like on that one show, America's Most Haunted. Hey, if you're in the area, go check it out.
Yeah.
I think them bringing too much attention to some of these places at the same time ruins them.
Yeah, well, and I will tell you that I've gotten a lot of backlash from people because of the urban exploration. There's a lot of places that I have explored. There's a prison in North Carolina that has been abandoned, and of course, the first thing people are like, oh, you're breaking and entering. But I'm just going to put it out there. Like, I actually just have, when it comes to stuff like that, I just get lucky. That abandoned prison, they keep it, they have video cameras, whatever. You aren't supposed to go on the property. But I just wanted to take photos of the perimeter, which typically if you're not on the property and you're just taking photos, that's fine.
Oh
You
yeah,
just take. And so out of
yeah, no
courtesy, I happened to notice somebody was there. And so out of courtesy, I went up there and said, hey, can I just walk around the perimeter and just take some photos? And the guy was like, he's like, he's like, I tell you what, I'm about to go on my lunch break and I'm just going to accidentally leave the door open. Have a good time.
uh,
And I
how
was
cool
like,
is that?
really? And then he showed me how I could access it whenever I wanted. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, It's not something that they let everybody do or whatever. I think I was in Gettysburg, and I went to Gettysburg right after COVID, and there was like nobody there. And so I was actually given some permission to go and explore and to investigate the fields, the battlefields and stuff. I mean, obviously there are certain things I still couldn't do or whatever, but basically stick to the road, things like that. And I will tell you, people were like, they would never give that permission. They would never do that, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, lockdowns were also never a thing. Like these
Right.
things never happened before. And I just happened to be there, and I just happened to run into the right person and, things like that. And there was another friend of mine with me, which I gave him hell for this, but he went back recently and was out there doing it again and got into trouble. And I'm like, that's because like that specific time we were there was such a weird time, and just randomly got permission. I'm like, you can't just do those things. So I never encourage people to just go do it. And when you watch the stuff that, there's a mental an insane asylum that was in South Carolina that they were getting ready to tear down, and they let me go in there. But there were people like being critical to me, like, oh, you're taking things and you're stealing and blah, 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 blah. But what they don't know is that they were like, it's all getting junked anyway. Take what
Oh
you
yeah.
want. And so I'm like, so I have gotten backlash for things like that, but it's because so many people just break and enter, and they just go in and they just explore and things like that. I
No. Whoops. Oh no.
Sorry about that. My phone started ringing.
Oh, there we go. She's back.
um, can you hear me still?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Oh no.
Well, we only got a few minutes left,
Let's
anyways.
see. No, I cannot.
Uh oh. Okay, we'll give her a couple minutes. Yeah, urban exploring is so much,
Okay.
but
Am I
again,
back?
yes, but you have to always be
I can't
careful.
hear anything. I'm going to reset here.
Okay, you got to be careful, no trespassing. You know, that was a big thing. There was certain places, like I'll give you an example.
There
Hear
we
me
go.
now?
Yeah, sorry about that. My phone started ringing and it just booted me off.
Uh, well, we're about to end the show anyway. We got like 6 minutes left, so.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh,
That's why I never like to use my phone for this stuff, because you never know what it's going to do.
yeah,
Um, but yeah.
yeah.
So sorry about that.
There was a story here. This story would make me, and I got talked out of it. This has all got to do with trespassing and laws, because in some cases, I think in this case I wouldn't be hurting anybody, and it's outdoors and everything. Why not? They got one little sign, but there's a story about an Indian princess. There's a burial mound. It's marked with an uh, little monument and all this. But the whole story behind the whole thing is her remains. They excavated the area. Her remains got dug up, and they had found like three or four belts made out of shells and stuff. Well, anyway, they took her remains and put them on display down at the museum. The local tribes to this day are still trying to get her remains put back and so on and so forth. But they remain in storage at this museum in Milwaukee. However, the the story from the site where her remains were dug up goes back even farther, that if you're standing on burial mound reading the thing at a certain time at night or just randomly, you'll start hearing like the rattling of the shells
Mm-hmm.
that made up her belt behind you.
Wow.
And there's just one sign that says no trespassing, but I figured if I went out there on that mound with just a camera and stuff, just to film for like 5 minutes, what am I harming?
Yeah.
You know, but I got too scared because somebody was with me and he kept going like this. Oh, you're going to get arrested. It's like, no, 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 no. But the whole place is used to be uh, a tribe's home because it had river access. You know, this is also near the what do you call it? It's Rock Lake, I think it is. Well, anyway, there's a couple of pyramids in the lake. If you
I
were
feel
like,
like I've heard of this place.
and if you were like right above the pyramids in like a little boat, you could see them from the water.
Mhm.
You know, the tops of them. So this is all in what was it? Asylum State Park.
I want to go check that place out because I feel like I've heard about it. So, um,
Well, the first time we went there, and I had my EMF thing, you know, all the equipment you would have, you know, even my cameras were brand new, you know, and brand new cards, brand new batteries, everything. We got some great footage of stuff, got it all back, put the cards in the computer, and all the files were corrupt.
oh my gosh,
Yep.
that's crazy.
Yep, batteries died, files were corrupt. That was our first trip out there.
Wow.
We've been out there like 3 times since then.
I definitely want to check it out. You know, like the other place that I think I went to that I got really lucky was Sloss Furnace. And they don't allow people really in there at all. They do a big like haunted house type thing where people come in, but I just happened to be in the area and I like went, I was like, "Oh, I'll just go check it out." And the gate was open. So I thought the place was open, so I drove in through the gate and I was like looking for people, couldn't find anybody. And so I took a couple pictures and I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. But I go back, I'm starting to go back to my car and a security officer stops me and he's like, "What are you doing out here?" And I told him what happened. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, someone must have left the gate open." He's like, "You know what? Go take a lot of pictures, have a good time. Don't climb on anything, don't get hurt." I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it just goes to show though, sometimes if you're nice and you're lucky, you can get into some places.
I will tell you, I've had a cop or two in my day, ghost hunt with me. Just and it's always like, "What are you doing out here?" And I'm never doing any, like I've done things I'm not supposed to, but it's never on purpose. Like I don't realize that I'm doing something I shouldn't. We'll just put it that way. And the cops have showed up, and "What are you doing out here?" And I'll tell them, and then just hang out, and I'm like, "This is fantastic!" Like. I'll take it. It's fun.
So what's next for you?
Really right now, just working on the Stevenson building. I want to get it open. I'm thinking about allowing private investigations come April or May, with the stipulation that I have to be there. If it won't always be like that, but until certain things are dealt with, as far as the building goes and safety reasons, that's kind of the direction I'm heading right now. Um, I've been working on writing my own book. I've got a couple of them going. It's just taking me longer because one of them's about my life and it's a tough one. I've been on a lot of trips. I'm a lot of conventions. Missouri Paracon's coming up, so I'll be there. I'm not vending or anything. I'm just going because my friends are going and it's fun. So um,
Well,
just things like that.
you make connections by going to those places. You don't always need to have a vendor's table or selling your books or whatever. You
Yeah, I actually
going making new friends. You kind of make connections. You learn more things. I have fun going to conventions.
a
Yeah,
couple of years ago I met Stephen Tango at Scarefest. And I always look forward to seeing them. Tango is one of the sweetest people. Steve is a sweet person. Um, I guess I wouldn't necessarily call them friends, but maybe convention buddies is kind of the thing. But I've really enjoyed being friends with those two and whatever. They're very sweet people. So I have met a lot of people. I've met Cindy Kaza and Schrader and, all of them. That I think some of them just tolerate me, but I'm okay with that. So you meet a lot of good people that way. It's been fun. It's been a great time for sure.
I've met a lot of amazing people.
Hmm.
Going to all the Paracons in Chicago, in the Wisconsin areas that I've gone to. Um, Made some good friends, I think. It,
Yeah.
I won't stop, not until I have to.
You know what? And I'm the same way. Like I'll never quit traveling. I'll never, I honestly like I loved living on the road. I'm hoping to do it again here soon in the future. But it's been I love the adventure that life has given me. So I just want to keep doing it.
You got to have fun once in a while. Life's
Hmm.
too short. All right. Well, that's it, folks. Till next week, my guest will be Chad Lewis. Hopefully, this time it works out. We'll see. Famous Wisconsin author. So, thank you for coming on our show. It's
Thank you.
fun. And remember, people, stay safe and anything's possible.
You guys have a good